Paros, Greece, 90 miles out from Athens in the Aegean, and a lovely island awaited. I was here to make a film about Barry Tagrin, a poet and painter and the founder of a study abroad program on the island, and George Crane, a writer of memoirs who taught at Barry Tagrin's school. Barry Tagrin, George Crane, they were wild, crazy guys in the early 70s, the last of the Beats, the last of the world of hippiedom, and Haight-Ashbury and San Francisco's flower children. I was excited to meet up with them to tell the story of their lives. There were all sorts of people traveling, all sorts, and I was here to make a film I was excited about. Halfway to Paros now, halfway. Churches on the ledges of mountainsides. Amazing. The port, the adventure was about to begin. I had made other films before, but this was going to be different. Who were these guys? What had living outside of the American mainstream for decades done to them? Were they renegades or mavericks? Had living abroad opened up their lives, or were they really just hiding out here, living in Greece? The film I wanted to make might answer those questions. What I wanted really was to make a detailed portrait of their lives, of who they were, as artists, as men, as the remnants of a now fading generation. Where was that car rental place Barry had told me about?
Thank you very much. Okay? Take care. Okay? Take care, please, please.
Ah, a view of the Aegean. Barry's poems, Collage of the Soul, were well received. Jack Gilbert, quoted here, is a two-time nominated Pulitzer Prize poet. Linda Gregg, also quoted here, is a well-known poet in her own right whose work was often published in the New Yorker magazine. The reviews helped Barry's collection sell. Most of the poems were about his 28-year marriage to Karen Richter and dealt with his private need for danger, things forbidden, but would keep the spark of his life alive. Besides being a poet, Barry Tagrin was an excellent painter. He did his master's thesis on the poet Ezra Pound. Here's his portrait of Ezra. George Crane wrote Bones of the Master, a memoir about his trip with a Zen Buddhist monk to Inner Mongolia, which he started writing in 1996, and it was published in 2000. His memoir sold well enough to be translated into 13 languages and become a bestseller. He had received over $250,000 advance on this book. The reviews for his book were extraordinary. Tomorrow, I'm going to begin my interviews with both of them. I'll go up to Barry's house in my rented car, and you'll see the house he built by himself with his own hands out of stone. And later, you'll meet his Japanese wife, Yuko, and his 5-year-old daughter, Mona. Both of these guys lived at the top of mountains.
Hey, Bruce, you made it.
At opposite ends of the island. I was going to both of their places.
Come on in.
But right now, I was dead tired. 15 hours of flying, and after 9,000 miles of travel. Boy, was I tired. That bed looked awfully inviting. Yes. I was expecting a phone call from Barry, and I'd better get up. Barry's road was difficult to find, but his directions were good, and soon I found the turnoff. But what a stretch of road it was getting up the 6 miles to his house. The house he built with his own hands out of boulders from these very hills that we are passing. Over 30 years, building his house, improving his house. Yeah. Oh, Barry! Yeah, I guess the reception works up here even. We're on our way up. You're doing what? Splitting boulders?
There we go. Nice.
With what?
22 pounds.
My God, I thought you were only saying, I didn't know you actually do this still. Uh-huh. Well, I know you built your house that way, but I didn't know you kept... Anyway, we're on our way up. It was tough sledding and dangerous, and if I missed a turn, I might never get there. Which way do I go? This is ridiculous. Yeah, it's me again. Listen, I'm at another split in the road. I don't know whether to go right or left. It's before the monastery. There's no sign here whatsoever, and the roads look equally good.
Turn left.
Go left. Okay, hopefully. Bye-bye. Christ. Whew. Okay, here we go. We're gonna keep on going and get to Barry's. We're only about 5 to 7 minutes away now up this narrow road. The only cars that are up here are ones that have been abandoned, that have been left dead on the highway, sort of debris that's never made it through. No easy task getting here, believe me. Entering Dante's hell one circle at a time. We're going into the heart of darkness with Marlowe looking for Kurt. You never know about this. Good God. Barry Taggart, George Crane, and I are product of the 1960s. The three of us went to San Francisco State, but we didn't know one another. Interestingly enough, there were parallel lines that had not yet crossed. If another car comes in the other direction, you're basically pretty much screwed. Either you have to back up for a mile to find a turn-off section, or else somehow scrape by. Holy shit. Holy mackerel. Let's hope this visit's worth it. Let's hope he does a good interview. He and George, the two mavericks of Paros. Barry's house was just off to the right here, tucked in a little cove up in the mountainside. Here's his gate into his house. That's just like you said. Oh my goodness. He's here. Except to park. This is it. Okay, excuse me. Okay, we're here. Hello.
Hey, Bruce,
Finally here.
you made it.
I have no idea how I actually found that. I mean,
Well, it's 10 kilometers of winding road, you know, ravines on the left and right. So I'm really glad to see you.
oh, good to see you, my friend.
Yeah. Come on up and see the mountain house, we call it.
That
you know,
mountain
the
house.
mountain house. I would
I
just
can't believe you chop boulders.
Yeah, I was just chopping some boulders today, you know. I mean, you know, just you got to smash them a few times. They break open, you can build a house with them. It's fun.
Ah,
Yeah,
wow,
yeah.
wow.
I built these walls with those kind of stones, and
Oh my! Wow,
you just
that's
keep building the terraces, and you know,
Wow,
and
just
more stuff.
amazing.
Yeah, I've got this rooftop patio up here. That's sometime you'll probably see
That's
it. We're gonna
beautiful.
Make it
It's
for the
just so
student.
beautiful up here. I can't, top of the mountain, man.
Yeah, top of the mountain, 750 meters.
Wow, it's just incredible. And then you have this. You can see the monastery from here.
Yep, that's monastery. 44 nuns, big church, nice.
44 nuns.
Nice people. I've got to be friends with them by now.
Really?
Yeah. Why not?
The Church of Poetry becomes the church.
The Church of Poetry becomes the Church of Reality. That's right. Yeah.
That's interesting. That's downstairs.
That's
to go
down
to the house?
like a half a flight of stairs into the patio and the main building. You want to come down and see it?
Absolutely.
Okay. This is the first room I built right here.
Wow.
27 years ago.
My God.
Come on in and take a look.
Oh, wow.
I think what's interesting about it, I mean, for somebody that has first time to come to
Right,
an
right.
old Greek house, all the walls are made with dry stone. So just the stones are stacked together like a kind of puzzle. And then afterwards you put the cement on to solidify everything.
My
So
God.
you don't build it itself with cement or with mud. Right?
I see.
And they're 2.5 feet thick, so it's nice and strong, and the ground is solid stone underneath.
My
so
God.
that's that.
You did this the floor also?
All the stones in the walls and all the stones on the floor actually came from the very space that the room is in.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's the fun of it. It's free.
And these paintings are your paintings?
Yeah, these are my paintings. This selection in this house here, I mean, the living room here is basically from the time I was in Spain. I did a lot of painting there, a lot of exhibitions in Spain, in Pamplona. This one here,
You were 3 years in Pamplona.
yeah, 3 years, 75 to 78.
Wow, amazing.
I did these. These are all done without brushes. They're done with a palette knife or by hand or with a cloth. So
Really?
it's a different kind of
Amazing.
technique.
Without brushes.
Yeah.
It's just incredible.
Well, it's different. This one over here on this wall, the Jerusalem Girl, and that's done with brush. It's a different style completely.
I see.
And it's my child's Playmobil set.
So I understand your wife did work for interior decoration?
Yuko just became the most perfect Japanese carpenter overnight, and she built
Amazing.
all of these cabinets with the bamboo and the wood, and we stained them and kind of, bolted them to the floor and bolted them to the walls, and
Amazing.
and they match the ceiling. That's the whole point. That everything has a kind of, beige wood-colored tone. So
That's beautiful.
The
That's
idea is
beautiful.
wood and white,
Just
that kind
charming.
of thing. So.
These
you
are
know,
all your, is right?
There's a painting over here of Karen's that she did also when we were in Spain. It's actually the kitchen in Spain,
I
if you
see.
want to come and take a look at this. She called it the kind of two berries because the wiser one, that's me in the back, is holding the drunker poet one in the front, and that's why
I see.
this wine glasses, wine bottles here and the little glasses here, and it's finished. So he's kind of blitzed out, and he's holding and helping him. So those are the two parts of the poet's being. I'm sort
Was
of
this
fond of it. Yeah.
What year do you think that was done? Any idea?
I know exactly when that was done. 1977.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Soon after Franco died, and the same summer that I was running with the Bulls in Pamplona. I think you have a shot of that someplace. But
Wow. You were running with the Bulls.
yeah, exciting. I
Just
lived
amazing.
through it. They didn't get me. you know. So for a 5-year period, I only saw my father maybe 10 times because he was a traveling salesman. And I never had a negative relationship with him. I mean, he'd come home, he'd bring me a present. He, for my 10th birthday, brought me a .22 long rifle with a box set of cartridges, and I became a very good shot.
George.
Hey, Bruce. Glad to see you. Grew up in inner city Chicago, mid-city Chicago. We lived in the Montrose Hotel, which was a SRO. My father had gone bankrupt, and my brother, my mother, and I lived in this one-room hotel room in Chicago. And it was a lousy area.
And after the divorce, my father had been having an affair with my mother's best friend. And when the affair was found out, her husband, Carl, killed himself with a .22 pistol. So it was a very dramatic affair. Right afterwards, they left together and they went to Florida. And I was sort of put in the same box as my mother. In other words, I was rejected by him. He didn't say, my father's never mean to me, we never argued, we never had a fight or a bad word. But he just left, and that was it. And I didn't see him again or hear from him again or talk to him again until I was 21.
My mother had probably cracked up with the bankruptcy and Poverty didn't agree with her, so she was crazed all the time. My father was working 3 or 4 jobs to try to keep us together, and it was tough. My brother was sick. The place was small, so I lived on the streets, and the streets were dangerous. When I was 16, I was attacked by a gang and nearly killed. It was close. The library, which was my refuge, and where the librarian, I'll never forget her name, Mrs. Agraw, gave me the run of the place. And through her, I found the wonderful world of books, which was the portal to a different life, to a life outside of Chicago, outside of that neighborhood, to a kind of freedom that wasn't available either in my household or in the streets.
About almost 11 years old, my mother and I headed out to Los Angeles, and we had to make a life for ourselves. It was hard for me to make friends because I went to so many different schools. I went to 6 schools between the time I was 12 and 14. 6 schools. When I was, living just with my mother after the divorce, and time, let's say 10 to 14, my mother was going through a very difficult period of time. She was trying to transform herself, and she had a couple operations, and she was going out a lot with men and such, but she started drinking quite a lot. Drinking was very, very important to my mother, but she started drinking very, very early in the day. And she also took amphetamines to clean the house and do stuff like this. So, she was up and down. And what I think I did is I learned from my mother very early that you can't, you don't want to lose yourself in liquor the way she does. And so she actually created a pattern in me whereby I don't drink until it's dark, and I only have 2 or 3 drinks. Sometimes I'll have a tiny bit more, but I don't like to be drunk, and I can't write poetry drunk. I can write when I'm drinking or something. And my parents got divorced was because of my mother's mood changes, and vanity, and need of attention when she drank. From the time that I was 13 to 16, I basically lived alone because my mother went out every night and she worked in the daytime, so I made my own meals and such. But she loved me. She filled the refrigerator up with food and such, but she just stayed out late. She was a big, fleshy woman, warm, thick, and heavy. She drank and was often sour, smelling of liquor, strange odors, a colored sky inside. She kept a light on that illuminated her, that played in light and shade over her body. Clothed it was sometimes in a stained nightgown, from crying, from pain, from trying to love. The strangers that filled her nights vanished into the day amid the rubble of it. She was a deep and personal woman with a troubled intelligence that never matched up, who sipped at martinis when she was happy, for the few moments she dreamed of being pretty as a girl in the high grass of Illinois she was, chased with affection along the slippery creek bed where a kiss caught in the sun made her toes tingle, gave breath to the passion that wore her out, made the boy kneel at her side when she cried, growing thin at the end as her life tumbled away. The gorgeous vessel she was drained at last and worshipped now.
I left the United States on the run in 1969. I was running from the Vietnam War, the draft, a romance gone sour. But basically I was running from the draft. The FBI was after me, so I crossed over into Canada. And from Canada I went to Germany, and from Germany in an old VW bus bounced south until I got to southern Spain, Andalusia, where I set up camp for the next 7 years.
I began to experimented with drugs and this and that, and finally it came that my girlfriend went to Europe. She ended up in Italy, and I wrote her a letter, and I said, well, I'm coming, and please Please wait for me. I was just kind of adventurous and looking for things. I did have a camera. I thought of myself as a kind of filmmaker at the time. I wanted to make movies. I carried around a black and white camera. I carried around a color camera. I wasn't very good at photography, but I thought I would give it a chance. So I met up with Patty in Rome at the American Express office. And by the time I was there, the relationship seemed to be ending. And that ended at the same time as my marriage ended. And so kind of in a very short period of time, I was a divorced person, alone, without really a girlfriend, and I was by myself in Europe. I didn't have very much kind of concept of where I was going or what I was doing. So at the time, I decided to go to ask people where to go, and people said, well, you can, if you go to Greece, it's very warm there. So I said, well, Greece was nice, and where is it?
There's also a wonderful sense of being able to look back at your own culture from a distance, which for me gives me a greater insight into it than I would have, I think, being there. It allows me to divorce myself from it and be that, that eye looking down on it, dispassionately in some way.
We started to go around the island and meet people, and there was an invitation to come to dinner with about 30 people, and I sat in a crowd with them, and I just happened to find a place next to Jack Gilbert and Linda Gregg, who are two American poets and people that everybody knows now, but nobody knew then.
In the 20s and 30s, writers and artists left America to again reinvent themselves, to become fresh, to become out of the mainstream.
Jack came to me, and I was sitting next to him, and my first impression was I was a little bit intimidated, but then I opened up to him. We began to talk, and he got me into the idea of writing poetry. I sat down to my Smith Corona typewriter, and I began to write the deepest things I could about myself. Things that he had kind of suggested that I write about my early life and such. I didn't know much about poetry. I hadn't really heard about poetry, so I kind of followed his guidance in that way. And I wrote poems about my time in Illinois, that my parents' divorce, my mother, father, the difficulty, the kind of stress and loneliness of it. I brought 5 or 6 of these poems to Jack, and we had a tea in the morning, a Lipton's tea, and he filled up the cup, and he looked over at me, and he said, well, he said, I see some talent here. It was a really nice intellectual and creative start for me, and they gave me the support I needed. And Jack would be a person who later introduced me to Ginsberg and Ferlinghetti and Robert Bly and a lot of people in the scene in San Francisco at the time when he got me into graduate school 2 years later.
There's always been women in my life. Women have been my passion, my muse, in fact, I think much of my life has been controlled by that need, the passion I have for women. But as far as being in love, really in love, seriously in love, 4 times maybe.
I had some very struggling, difficult times. I didn't do so well in school, even though I wasn't particularly dumb or anything. I did well in my classes, but I didn't really follow the rules so well. I didn't really make many friends, but I did fall in love with a girl. I had my first serious relationship when I was 14 with Sherry Dobrik, and we spent 2 years together, and I even thought about getting married.
There was Mary, who traveled to Spain with me, who followed me to Spain. When I was in my mid-20s, I fell in love with a 62-year-old painter whose name shall remain undisclosed. And she was one of the great loves of my life. Maybe my first great teacher. Anna was my first great teacher. I was at a party in southern Spain. I met her at a party in southern Spain. Just a few months, she kicked me out. maybe 3 months, maybe 4 months. She said, "It's time to move on, boy." We were friends forever. I mean, we stayed friends forever. When she died, I guess about 15 years ago now, it really was a heartbreaking experience thinking of Anna dead. It didn't seem like she could ever die. She had that energy of an immortal. But at 62, she was a goddess. I mean, she was a goddess. Her hair, which had once been gold, had turned gray. But instead of gray, it was like brushed aluminum. She wore it up on top of her head in a big thing. When I first met her, I saw it at a party, and there was a paintbrush through it and a pencil through it. Pulled the pencil out of her hair and the paintbrush out of her hair, and her hair went down her back. And I said, "Oh, George, you are lost, but you're out of your league here."
So, you know, I skipped a lot of school. I didn't, you know, I eventually had to get a GED degree. And I met a person at that time, accidentally, a woman, in Hermosa Beach. And we had a child was the result, and I did the honorable thing and married her. But, you know, I cared for her too, to the degree that I was mature enough, you know, to the degree of my maturity at the time. It was a hippie time. We're talking about lots of hippies. We're talking about, you know, LSD and marijuana and Sunset Boulevard and Timothy Leary and all this kind of stuff. And I was into that stuff, and my wife was not, but we never argued. I went to school full time at Long Beach State. I was going to be a lawyer. I went there to got my degree in political science. But when I was 21, and the very evening that I graduated, that very evening, I went out with a friend of mine and stayed out quite late, till 2 o'clock. I'd never had any other affairs with women. I'd never done anything against my wife. We didn't have a particularly close relationship. But when I went home, quite late, I think I got home like at 4 in the morning, the house was empty. There was nothing there. Not even the carpet was gone, and the matting underneath the carpet was gone.
So she took everything?
She took everything. And in the bedroom was a box of my clothes with a picture of my son on top, 4 years old. It was quite severe. I called her up the next day and I said, "What's going on?" And she said, "I don't want to be married to a student any longer. I want refrigerators and nice things and a new car, and I don't, you know, I'm tired of this life. I don't want to do this." And I said, "Well, you know, is there any way out?" "No, there's no way out." So I was, you know, like scared and broken and nervous.
Sigrid is your first wife?
Sigrid is my third wife.
Sigrid is your third wife?
Yeah.
So how many times have you been married?
Official marriage is 3. Sigrid wanted a different kind of life than I wanted. She left me, again, almost all the women have left me. She said I was gonna kill myself. She thought I was gonna, not by suicide, but by the way I was living my life, that I was gonna, and she didn't want to be around to watch it. I had gone sailing and got lost at sea and was back very late, and she hadn't heard from me, and when I came back she said, "That's it, I don't want it anymore. I've had it. Now it's time."
So it was your wanderlust that ended the relationship?
Yeah, wanderlust, yes.
Okay.
And an adrenaline madness, you know, the need for risk. I take it very hard, very literally, very, very hard. Of course. And I also never stopped loving the people that I love. I mean, if I really love you, I don't stop. Love doesn't go away. It's not the love that goes away. The relationship can fall apart, but the love doesn't go away. I mean, the love is the love. I think the most heartbreaking conversation I ever had was with Mary very recently. I traced her down. I hadn't talked to her in maybe 15, 20 years. She was living in Vermont. And I called her up, and we had this wonderful conversation. She had followed my books, and she had talked. I said, "Mary, I'm going to come up to see you. I want to see you." And she said, no, don't come. I don't want you here." And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "I've gotten very fat, and I want you to remember me like I was, rather than how I am now." Which was, and I said, "Mary, I don't really care how you look." And she said, "No, I want to live in your memory the way I was. Usually when a relationship breaks up, I like to put a lot of distance between me and it. A continent isn't bad, the ocean is even better. I think relationships can wear out. I think most of the time it's probably my fault. I wear out people.
How do you wear out people?
Well, frequent disappearance and travel, lack of concern about money and things practical.
Well, my life was sort of interrupted at that point because I'd met my wife in Greece the year before.
That was Karen?
That was Karen Richter, and I met her on the beach in Mykonos in the most dramatic fashion. She was supposed to get married, but I got back with her right after my graduation. So my life changed in that sense because I was with Karen from that moment on for the next 30 years of my life. And as soon as I graduated, I left San Francisco and I called up Karen and I said, "Sweetheart, I'm coming back for you." She said, "Don't be ridiculous. I'm living in Cape Cod. I'm getting married to a rich, beautiful guy. I've got a garden here. I'm living next to Kurt Vonnegut. My life is perfect." I said, "Forget it. I'm coming. Be at the post office at this hour." And I think she fought pretty hard not to do that. But when I got to the post office in Brewster, Massachusetts, on the day that I told her to be at the post office, she actually did come. And she arrived. And we were never apart from the moment that she arrived at that post office box in Brewster, Massachusetts, until the year 2000. So we spent 28 years together, never apart. Our dream was to take our relationship the whole distance, the whole way to death, and do us part, seriously so. What broke Karen and I in the end is I couldn't stay home, I couldn't be honest, I couldn't do what I needed to really do.
I have not been able to be monogamous. If that's immoral, then I guess I'm immoral. I've never had a relationship where I was able to maintain monogamy and it's never happened. Why that is I don't know why that is. Probably because I'm self-involved egomaniac.
March of 2000, I was already
Broken up
with Karen. We weren't
right.
legally divorced, but I was broken up with her.
Right.
I was allowed to be free. I mean,
Sure.
my life had changed. And
Right.
I went down to the internet shop, which was kind of in the winter, springtime.
Right.
Nobody was there but Yuko
I see.
and me. And I
So
spoke a little Japanese, and I saw this beautiful Japanese girl, and I spoke to her, and
That's how it all began.
we fell in love, yeah.
That's
Just like
interesting.
that, yeah.
And did you learn Japanese from the time that you taught English in Japan?
I learned
little bit.
enough to be able to win a woman, I think. We spent 13 days together, and she went back to Japan.
I see.
I said I was coming to Japan. So I got to Japan, and I went to work. I mean, I knew Japan well, and I knew I could teach English. I couldn't get a fancy literature job or anything, so I taught some English and made some money, and things were nice.
Right.
And we spent almost a year living together with her and her roommate. And then on November 14th of the same year, of 2000, we got married in Japan.
Wow. The intensity of those interviews were getting to me. I needed a breather from all that. Barry, George, these guys. What chapters did I need to do next? I needed to get away from all of that for a moment. So I needed to get down to the city just to look around, enjoy being in Greece. After all, how often did I get here?
Writing is an act of discovery. That's what you're doing. And the most important thing about writing, and even reading other people's writing, I mean, I love that moment when I'm with that writer, when he has discovered that moment, discovered that sentence. And it's not even like he wrote that sentence. It's like he met it like it was an old friend coming down the street. "Hey, where have you been all my life?" You know, you discover it, you find it. And that sense of craft, in a real sense, is learning how to discover. The sentence is the only way to explore. I mean, it's the only thing you have to explore with, and I love the sentence. I love a great sentence is a gorgeous thing to behold, and and will transmit everything that needs to be told about anything. I mean, it's the only way. So yeah, I love sentences. I love the good sentence, the taut sentence.
I don't sit down with any preconceived idea of how to write a poem. I sit down and try to manage my thoughts and feelings for the day. It's almost like saying, it's almost like being in a confessional booth, except that I'm the priest, So I'm asking myself, telling,
Forgiveness.
confessing to myself, and I'm asking forgiveness. But I'm also so tough that I'm not gonna. There's certain things I'm not going to forgive myself for, and there's certain things that I want to be forgiven for. So it's like that. But in a sense, it's like, creating something just by accident. But because I've been doing it for so long, and because I've learned from other poets, and Jack Gilbert and Linda Gregg and Larry Felsen and my wife Karen and such, and George too. I've learned from people how to edit my work so that all the editing takes place as the poem is being written. I very seldom change anything in a poem, very, very seldom. Poems for me are kind of natural way of breathing with words.
Storytelling, I think, is instinctual. I don't worry really too much about the reader. I really worry, as all I want to do is satisfy myself. If I entertain myself, if I satisfy myself, if the pace entertains me, then that's fine. Then if the reader finds it interesting, fine. If he doesn't, so be it.
And I think that I probably live through my poetry, or I live, via it. It's the thing that matters most. I mean, I sometimes say that Mona matters most, but I don't think I could control Mona and be the kind of father and such that I want to be if I wasn't working on my poetry continuously. Again, I have to repeat this, it's a kind of like a religion with me and such, because I reach a frame of mind and spirit when I'm writing that makes me positive and happy.
With writing, there's kind of a craven ambition, for me at least, to do great work. I wanted to stand up next to the titans that I loved and respected. Whether I was ever going to reach that goal was of no matter to me. The only thing that mattered to me was the attempt. Sometimes I think I write just so I know what I'm thinking. If I don't write it for that day, then I've lost that day. It's disappeared on me. The thoughts I had, the emotions I had, the feelings I had, the smells I smelled, the colors I saw, everything would be gone. It would disappear. I think also I write because I have a poor memory. Maybe mostly I'm doing is making up my life as I go along. Maybe nothing happened except what I wrote.
It became for me a window into myself, and a way to become, to find a sacred part of myself, to kind of fix the things that needed to be fixed, or to resolve the conflicts that I had inside myself.
We make our lives. We create our lives. We create our talents. We create our purpose. It always scares me when someone says he's talented. It always makes me go, fuck, give me a break. Talented, what does that mean? Write, paint, draw, film, whatever you do, just do it.
George is especially attuned and acutely aware of how my poems are written and why they're written, and can be of great help to me.
I see. So you do discuss your poems with him then?
As soon as I write a poem, I send it to him immediately.
Really? Okay.
I mean, immediately.
I see. Because George,
even before I change it or edit it. Yeah. Well, I think he's a genius with memoir. I think he's a really super fine short story writer. But what you're saying is, in terms of George, I mean, he is a perfectionist. You're not going to find any mistakes or any errors in his work. You're not going to find any sentences that you think you can do better.
Right.
And that's why he wants to wait and see. With me, it's a little bit different. I can send a raw poem out to somebody because I think the center of the poem is solid.
Right.
And how it's fixed or how it's tuned, fine-tuned, doesn't, it matters to me, but I'm not sensitive about having that done first.
I get it.
And I'm willing to throw it out there.
Okay.
I'm more of a poetry workshop kind of guy.
And you mentioned something about he has courage in face of insecurities.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that's one of the most admirable things about Barry is in the face of massive insecurities, he goes on and writes, and it doesn't stop him. Nothing stops him. I mean, in most people, the kind of insecurities that sometimes he lives with would cripple them emotionally, psychologically, and certainly cripple them as artists. But it hasn't with him. He goes on. He's a courageous, courageous guy. I admire him. I admire his writing. I admire his voice. I admire a certain kind of honesty that he's able to get in his writing and he's able to get in no other place.
Poetry has to be who you are. It has to have your breath in it. It has to have, Allen Ginsberg said the greatest thing about Bob Dylan, I don't know how famous the quote is, but he said, Bob Dylan doesn't sing, he breathes.
First book was sold at auction in '96 in September.
What was the title of that first book?
Bones of the Master. I woke up in the morning to about 2 feet of snow on an October 4th morning on a very warming day. We were completely cut off from town. We were living above Woodstock, New York. Trees blocking the road. So I took my chainsaw and went out to the road to try to clear the trees. I was using my chainsaw when out of the woods walked a small Chinese monk wearing children's yellow galoshes, rubber boots, children's yellow rubber boots. And he said, hello, I'm your neighbor Tsung Sai. I'm going to help you clear the road. And with a tiny saw and a hatchet, he started cutting away at trees. And I, with my chainsaw, would clear the road. And as we cleared the road, we began to talk, and he began to tell me about himself and who he was. You must come up to my house and have tea, and we'll talk poetry, and we'll talk life. And that was my first meeting with Tsung Sai, who became my dear friend and mentor. And he began to tell me his life story and what he had gone through and what had happened to him, how he grew up in Inner Mongolia at the edge of the desert, and how he became, as a 13-year-old, a young monk, and about his teacher and his life. And over the course of the next 2 years, we became friends, very close friends. We talked about poetry and what poetry was and why it was important. And he turned out to be a very interesting teacher. He had a wonderful philosophy on what was good in poetry, what was good in a sentence. He used to call me Georgie. He said, Georgie, in a poem or in a sentence, if there's one word wrong, it is like a baby with no head. It cannot live. And that sort of became the ethos that I took to heart. In the course of our relationship, we began translating some poetry. He walked out of China during the Great Famine of 1959. The only monks of his lineage in his monastery that remain. And he wanted to go back one day. He told me, I need to go back to China. I need to find the body of my master, who died during the in 1959. He went out to the middle of the road and decided he couldn't live under Mao. Sat down in the middle of the road and let go of his life and died. His body was buried somewhere in the Ordos Desert. Tsung Sai asked me to go back with him and help find the body so he could rebury the monk. It was an expensive project. We had no money to do it. So decided to write a first chapter of a travel memoir. We submitted it to 15 publishers at the same time. The way that's done is you tell the publishers all know, you have to tell them ahead of time that it's been multiple submission and that they have 48 hours to make a decision. And in 48 hours we had 15 acceptances. Little Brown put a $250,000 offer on the table to take all the other offers off the table. I was perfectly willing to take the $250,000 because I was dead broke at the time. In fact, so broke that we were being kicked out of the house that we lived in. The phone was turned off, the electricity was turned off. I was out in front of the house, actually stringing a muffler up against the car so we could load our car up when a friend came roaring down the driveway in his car, and he said, "Hey, listen, you better get to a phone." He said, your book just sold. The craziest one took place in Morocco in 1973. I had decided to go and visit the walled city of Samarra. It was a city that's been abandoned for centuries. What turned me on to it was a journal that I'd read by a French explorer who in 1926 traveled to Samarra to see this lost city. And on the way driving down to see Samarra, I had hired a car, and we were someplace south of Marrakesh when my driver's head exploded. It was close to 2 in the afternoon. The light was tepid. I never heard the shot. We were driving downslope into the wind when the driver's head exploded. His fingers had clutched at death, but the thick veins popping on the backs of his living hands had disappeared, and the blanched skin glowed weirdly like polished marble. His shirt buttons had popped, exposing his belly button. The Citroën came to a stop on the road's soft shoulder. I rolled out of the car, crawled into a ditch, and burrowed in the sand, hiding, waiting for the next shot, waiting for death, waiting for I don't know how long, waiting forever, waiting until I could wait no more. The time passed quick and slow. The world went insanely silent. Even the wind was mute. At my feet, something that looked like an eyeball rolled. His name was Ali. He was dead, beyond help, garbage. I kicked his body out of the car, dragged it by the feet to the ditch, wiped up as much of the gore as I could manage, and with bare hands shoveled a few inches of sand over his remains. I paused only to say, Inshallah, as Allah wills it, over the makeshift grave before jumping back in the car and hightailing it back to Marrakesh. And then it was a night of, strangely enough, a night of celebration. There's nothing as exciting, nothing as wonderful, nothing as much of a turn-in as survival. I mean, was some other poor son of a bitch was dead in the desert. Me, I was alive, you know, smoking dope, drinking, and running around with friends. Everything tastes everything is delicious. Everything looks better, tastes better, smells better. Every woman is more beautiful. Every word is more interesting. Every sentence more intelligent. Everything is magnified and pushed. I mean, I think it's what Hemingway saw in the bullfighters. There's nothing as extreme as nearly dying, as coming close to death. There's nothing as enlightening and elevating in a way. I had developed an inadvertent opium habit because I was smoking opiated hash. I had $75,000 to buy hash, a lot of money then. A lot of money.
A lot of money at any time.
Yeah, in cash.
And what happened? What did you do? What happened with that?
I bought $75,000 worth of hash, rolled it up into little tiny ribbons, and we stuck it in 16mm film cans. And back it went across the border.
Whoa. So were you a mule in a sense?
In a very real sense. Yeah, I was actually, my titular title was director and cameraman for Safari Films Limited. It was a major hash operation coming into Europe, actually. I think we brought in most of the hash that was...
And so you supported yourself through this...
That was my best job.
Your best
My
job.
most lucrative job.
Lucrative job before your writing became successful.
Before the writing became successful. Disasters are only disasters in the moment. You know,
No.
in the moment it's a disaster. 10 years from now it's a good story to tell your friends or tell a movie maker that's sitting opposite you.
That's very interesting.
Honestly think that both you and I are addicted to cafe life, which does not exist in the United States in the same way that it exists in Europe and it exists in Greece. We are every night in the cafe, on the waterfront, aware of the sun, aware of the moon, aware of people, watching people. It's a parade, and we feel kind of special and different, and we feel like we're artists, and you know, there's a cafe existence. Yes, it exists in New York. That's true to
Not
an
the
extent,
same way.
but
No,
not in
not
the
the
same
same.
way.
No
It's a
way.
different thing because
It's a very different
it's a
thing.
natural thing here. There's children playing in the street. There's everybody. You know.
It's very different.
So I think that's a parallel. I wanted to make a program for students that where they could really be themselves and have a, you know, live on an island like a person, like a human being, and not be in the classroom setting or a campus setting, not have the same, you know, peer pressures and family pressures that they had at home. It's working out well. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, but it's worthwhile to me. And I think it's something I'd like to pass on to my wife and my child. The program has been running for 14 years, and it's stronger and stronger.
The son of one of the founders of Hellenic Institute for the Study of the Arts was there, and he said I should come to Paros and meet Barry Tagrin and his father Dionysus, which I did, and we got along very well, and they asked if I would like to come and teach the writing course here, create a writing course here. The island was beautiful. I found a gorgeous house, and I said, why not teach writing here? Because it's different than an institutional, corporate institution. So there's a lot of freedom. I could do whatever I wanted, teach whatever I wanted, teach whichever way I wanted. I mean, I don't even make class plans. I go in and I open my mouth and I expect something will fall out, and I like that sense. If I would make a plan, it would bore me. Just as I don't make outlines for books. Working for Barry's a kick. I mean, we get along very well. We understand each other very well. He doesn't have any. I do what I want to do, and he gives. He's a very easy guy to deal with for me. But we think very much alike.
You know, I like to help people. That's why I have the program. That's why I have 727 students that have come through here, because I want to help people grow. I want to help them learn. I want to do things for people.
But what I really try to give them is a sense of craft, a sense of composition, a sense of the beauty of composition, a sense of what it is to be in the moment with writing. To follow the track of your mind wherever it leads. You only have one obligation. It's a very simple obligation, and that's to make it work. I'm not really concerned about legacy. It does not interest me in the least. I'm not even sure I know what that means. And there's nothing that you can do even if you wanted to, there's nothing you can do to ensure legacy. It's a strange word. I just want to live my life, and I want to live as many lives as I can. I mean, for every life you live, there's so many things unlived. Make a right turn instead of a left turn, and your life changes. What if I would have made the left turn? There's always the road not taken. One of the things about writing, it gives you that sense to walk on the roads not taken, even if you haven't, at least in your imagination. In terms of writing, you never know after you've written it what's real and what's not real. I mean, once you write something that has taken on that's what's real. Well, what actually happened is, who knows? That's really up to conjecture. All the past is made up. We make up our past. We rewrite. We make up our memories.
I'm always contemplating, the world. I continuously kind of look up at the sky, and one of the reasons I live in Greece is because I feel very comfortable being part of nature and the world here. But I always feel that death is kind of moving on, and it's a kind of stopwatch. I mean, it makes me think quite seriously, but it doesn't stop me from dreaming. I don't cease dreaming in the sense of other things that I want to do, other places I want to go. If I'm in a mood where I don't feel I'm in love at the particular moment and I want to be in love again, it's just a kind of wild sense of dreaming. I never death, even though I can't stop it in everyone and can't stop it in the world, it doesn't either stop me from dreaming.
Death doesn't bother me. Dying, I find, the process of dying, I find frightening. And at the same time, possibly exciting. I'm never sure whether I want to die in my sleep or die being aware of my death as it's happening, of watching the lights go out. That would be one hell of an adrenaline rush, I thought. So I'm never sure. The idea of dying is always a difficult process. Death is just death, Everything we were is gone. Everything we are is gone, Regret is a useless emotion. There's nothing you can do with it. You can just suffer it. My regrets, as I look back at things, are not from the things I've done, but from the things I haven't done. Having not enough time. I mean, you reach, our lifespans are so short. Just when we're just beginning to get an understanding of what it's all about, it's time to check out.
Mona is poetry for you.
Yeah.
That's beautifully said. Yeah.
No, it's true.
Yeah.
For me, it's just a remarkable thing because it's. I may not. I don't know if I really believe in this, but it's a kind of aspect of immortality for me. So I know that she's me and she's going to go on. So I feel good about that.
The birth of Siri and that relationship that I had with her was the most settling, humanizing thing in my life. It kept me in it let me look at the world in a different way, through different eyes.
How so?
It's a very difficult question. In the sense of maybe it add more compassion to my life. I want to write the best sentences I know how, the best books I know how. I want to, but after that, history has its own way of looking at things, and I will have, and there's nothing I can do to make a legacy, to ensure a legacy. Nothing lasts, only the earth lives. Earth survives. I have absolutely no feeling about it. I'm interested in story and storytelling. The idea of story, the idea that what is written, the sum total of what we as artists create and write, adds to the forward movement of man, adds to the evolutionary movement of man. I mean, in a very real sense, we wouldn't even exist as human beings. We wouldn't have evolved as human beings without that sense of our storytellers. They told us everything they had to know. The guy that sat around the campfire and told the stories, how to bury the dead, what food to eat, how to hunt, what to do, what their legends were, what the myths were. These are the stories that have let us evolve as human beings. Otherwise, we stay in the cave and don't go forward. We're still beating rocks together. So the storyteller is the person that makes it possible for us to evolve. It's the memory of our species.
Renegades or mavericks? Which are you?
I'd be happy to be both. I would be. You can count me on both sides. Yeah. I guess I am a maverick, and certainly I'm a renegade. So yeah, I mean, I was raised as a renegade from the time I was very, very young, because everything my mother and I did and everything I did with my friends was a little bit against the common core.
I think I like the word maverick just because of its nature. It's a maverick is actually originally a cow without a brand, an unmarked cow. So there was a Texas cattleman named, I don't know, General Maverick, Colonel Maverick, I don't remember his first name, but he refused to brand his cattle. And so the cattle that weren't branded became known as Mavericks, and then Maverick worked its way into the language as we see it now.
I like the idea of being able to be free to not follow the middle class or common patterns. I don't want to be tamed. I don't want to be leashed, and I don't want to be tied down.
I love life, but I only love it on my terms. When it gets to be less than that, I don't care about it anymore. Then I can let it go. It's been a great life. I don't do well with restrictions, and I don't do well with rules, and I don't do well. I don't do well in herds.
So I was going back. Who knows? Maybe Barry will show up at the last minute. Maybe not. Had I gotten all the footage I needed? I hope so. I couldn't come back 9,000 miles if I missed a shot. Maybe I didn't expose all I could about their inner lives, outrageous things they did in their youth. For example, Barry Tagrin told me that he had driven at 11 years old across the country from Illinois all the way to Los Angeles on Route 66, and miraculously never got stopped or a ticket, speeding all the way along at 90 miles an hour. Pretty amazing. I could be glad, I suppose, that I got both of them to make a statement about writing, about poetry, about the need for writing craft, and that writing was a worthwhile thing to do. Mavericks, renegades, living abroad, how much did it matter in the end? Wherever they lived, no matter what they did, they both believed that one shouldn't give up. As Kafafi, the Egyptian poet, said in one of his poems, it's the journey that matters, not the arrival. Life was about discovery, who we were, who Barry Tagrin was, George Crane, myself. And after all, as George said in one of our interviews, storytelling was the legacy of our species. Yes, our legacy. And this was one of them too, maybe, the story I've told. At least I hoped it could be. The ferry traveled on further away from Paros. It was a beautiful day out, a beautiful day.